There we go. Do we have them? All righty, there we go. Can't hear you, Tim.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we're good.
All right, great. Are we ready to go, Wilda?
You bet.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, well, let's get started. All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the City of Bowie regular City Council meeting of Monday, July 14th, 2025. It is now 8:06 p.m. At this time, I would ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, would you confirm that we have a quorum for this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a quorum for this evening's meeting. In council chambers, we have Councilmember Stev, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley, Councilmember Brady, and Councilmember Truesdale. And virtually via Teams, we have Councilmember Rogers and Mayor Adams.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said, good evening to everyone. At this time, I'll open the floor to any motions on agenda additions, deletions, or amendments. Hearing none from council members, we will move on to citizen participation.
We don't have anyone signed up this evening, Mayor.
Okay, well, at this time, we'll go to presentations and we'll allow the Diversity Committee, French American Heritage Month presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Greetings, everyone. My name is Kene Faulkner, and I'm a member of the City of Bowie's Diversity Committee. And today I'm here to recognize and celebrate French American Heritage Month for the month of July. This month provides an opportunity to honor the history, culture, and contributions of French Americans in the United States, a group whose influence stretches from our earliest days as a nation to present. While French American Heritage Month is not widely known or celebrated as some of the others, its significance is undeniable. From the founding of cities like New Orleans, Detroit, St. Louis, to the lasting impact on law, language, art, religion, cuisine, French Americans have shaped the social and cultural fabric of this country in meaningful ways. French explorers, settlers were among the first Europeans to map and inhabit large regions of North America. Today, millions of Americans can trace their ancestries to France or French-speaking regions such as Haiti, Quebec, and the French Caribbean. Let me share you a few facts that highlight the breadth of French American contributions. Louisiana Purchase, 1803, nearly doubled the size of the United States and has deep roots in the French colonial history. French is the fourth most spoken language in the United States, including Creole dialects. Influential French Americans include artist John James Audubon, writer Marguerite Yourcenar, musicians Louis Moreau Gottschalk, and political Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable, the Haitian-born founder of Chicago. French American Heritage Month is not only about remembering the past, but also celebrating the living, evolving presence of French heritage in our communities, whether it's through music, food, fashion, or values like liberty and fraternity. French culture continues to inspire. So for this month of July, I encourage each and every one of us to learn more about French American history and think about how those diverse cultural identities strengthen the communities we live in. I ask that we uplift the contributions of those whose stories often go untold, and that we recognize the interconnectedness of cultures that make America truly unique. Lastly, here are a few ways to celebrate and honor French American Heritage Month. Attend a French heritage festival or cultural event if possible. Explore French-American landmarks or museums either locally or online. Try cooking a traditional French or Creole recipe at home. Support local businesses, artists, and authors of French roots. Take a moment to learn a few phrases in French. It's a beautiful language. Merci beaucoup for your time, and happy French-American Heritage Month. Thank you for your time.
Très bon, thank you very much. All righty. The mayor seems to be having some difficulty, so I'll take over here for the time being. We'll see if we can get him connected. In the meantime, thank you for the presentation. Very much appreciate it. With a name like Dufour, you can understand I might have some appreciation for it. So thank you very much. Next item up, city boards and committees. We have a couple of appointments to discuss this evening. The first is for Ms. Tiffany Townsend Smith, who was interviewed on July 7 for appointment to the Community Outreach Committee. The council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a regular member for a 2-year term. Mr. Stev, do you care to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move to appoint Ms. Tiffany Townsend Smith as a regular member of the Community Outreach Committee.
Motion has been properly made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We have an additional appointment as well, and that's for Ms. Henrietta Awo Ose-Anto, who was interviewed on July 7, 2025, for appointment to the Community Outreach and Diversity Committees. Council concurred to appoint her to both committees as a regular member for a 2-year term. Mr. Stev, do you care to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move to appoint Ms. Henrietta Awo Ose-Anto as a regular member of the Community Outreach and Diversity Committees.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the council, for that. Is Ms. Townsend with us this evening? Thank you. Please come on down. We'll have you right here at the counter. And Ms. Henrietta Ose-Anto, is she here? She is not here. All right, we'll take care of that on the next iteration. So Tiffany, we will start with you and finish with you. I will read you the oath of office. You can follow along with me. You may choose to either swear or affirm, and we'll go from there. All righty. I state your name.
Tiffany Townsend Smith.
Do swear or affirm
Do affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof.
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
I'm sorry, can you repeat
and
that?
that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
And I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of
Community Outreach Committee
Community Outreach Committee
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Come on down here. We have something for you.
Congratulations.
There you are. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and thanks for the time that you're willing to spend for the city.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Tim.
All righty. At this time, we'll turn it over, I believe, for council announcements. And I would like to have one myself, and that is with heartfelt sorrow, a good friend to the city and to all of us, Terrence Taylor, passed today. He was the manager, well, the district director for Congressman Steny Hoyer for many years. And if we could, I just ask everybody to take a moment and reflect, because he truly did do a lot to support the city. Thank you all very much. At this time, I will turn it over to other council members if they have any announcements. No other announcements?
Nothing here.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and residents out there. Our employees are working hard to deliver seamless services to the residents, and we believe they're doing it well. I would like to comment, however, on the Diversity Committee's presentation, just a little bit. You know, one of the original French colonies was based in Mobile, Alabama, and that included New Orleans, and the governor, Mr. Bienville, was in Mobile. And just for the record, and that's when the Mardi Gras, which was not mentioned, originated and migrated later on to New Orleans. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, city manager, because it's really important that they know that New Orleans is now the home of the Mardi Gras. Moving along.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would point out that to the better environments as well, and to greater effect and to finer results.
Thank you so much, Member Mayor Pro Tem Wolfie. At this time, we will move to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move on to the old business, the South Bowie Boys and Girls Club grant request for the Nike basketball camp. Is there anyone
Mayor?
in chambers? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, we do have Ms. Carrie Bridges here with us tonight. If you would like her to go first, or if council would like to begin, and then we could call her up.
Council, do you have any questions before we call Ms. Bridges up? If not, we can just bring Ms. Bridges up. Thank you, City Clerk.
Good evening, everyone. I always talk badly about the kids that read off of their phones, but I'm getting ready to do that tonight. Good evening, council members and Mayor Adams. Last week, I watched a council meeting regarding the organization requesting funding for the children in the city of Bowie to attend the Nike basketball camp hosted by South Bowie Boys and Girls Club in partnership with Chase Your Dreams Academy. I understand the vote on the request was tabled to allow time for further review. I am here today to formally and respectfully ask for your support in person. The Nike camp has proudly operated in the city of Bowie for well over a decade. Last year, South Bowie Boys and Girls Club partnered with former WNBA player Sonia Chase to continue bringing this high-quality camp experience to our community. Coming out of the pandemic, our club, like many youth organizations, was struggling to regain membership and momentum. Mrs. Chase made an incredible, generous gesture. She relinquished her ownership of the Bowie camp to allow South Bowie Boys and Girls Club to directly partner with Nike. This is an incredible opportunity, not only for our club, but for the children and families of Bowie. And we are doing everything we can to ensure access to all, especially during these challenging times. This year, we faced another hurdle. Many families are experiencing financial hardships, including those impacted by recent federal job losses. In response, I reached out to county council members across multiple districts to request support in sponsoring children to attend the camp. I am deeply grateful to Councilmember Hawkins and Watson, who did not hesitate to support the effort. During last week's meeting, a question was raised about where where this ask is coming from and what the paper trail looks like. I would like to clarify that the request is coming directly from South Bowie Boys and Girls Club and Chase Your Dream Academy. And Chase Your Dream Academy, our official partners in hosting the Nike basketball camp in the city of Bowie. The camp's pricing and registration details are publicly available on U.S. sports camp websites, where the standard cost is listed as $4.99 per participant. However, because we are actively fundraising for scholarships, we were able to negotiate with Nike to reduce the cost per participant. This means that the same amount of funding, we can send more children. Instead of 4, we can now send 6. We are specifically seeking funds to sponsor children from within the city of Bowie, children who will otherwise attend this camp, but whose families cannot currently afford to do so. To illustrate the need, over the weekend, a mother from Devonshire reached out after seeing our post on social media. Unfortunately, we had already exhausted available funds and were unable to help her. One final point, during last week's discussion was a reference to another program from District 4 that would benefit the city more broadly. I want to emphasize that my request is not political or in opposition to anyone else's efforts. My only goal is to advocate for the youth of Bowie, regardless of district, so that no child is turned away from this enriching opportunity due to financial limitations. We're not asking for a handout. We are asking for an investment in Bowie's youth. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration. My name is Carrie Bridges. I am the athletic director for South Bowie Boys and Girls Club and the community leader for Chase Your Dreams Academy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bridges. Are there any questions from council? Am I missing anyone? I don't
Nope.
hear
nobody here.
anything.
Nothing.
Okay, so the request, as you know, that was made, and I think a motion was made last week, was about giving $2,100, I think it is, for the 6 candidates. I think everybody's gotten that. And I'd like to know if we as a council can move forward in doing that. Council member, Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm
Feedback?
perfectly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm perfectly fine with that. I know that we always find that there's somebody in need from time to time and could benefit from some assistance. And I think that if we can help provide for those who might not otherwise be able to afford it, that'd be great. And I don't have a concern with this. And I know that our staff is accustomed to dealing and sorting through those sorts of candidates and can take care of that for us.
Okay, well, can I have a motion from someone?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to move forward with these 6 candidates for the South Bowie and Chase Nike camp.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. We will now move on to the new business. And that's the city elections. The city's Board of Elections will present to council proposed changes for city elections. And I will turn it over. Staff?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Committee.
For the record, Wilda Hernandez, City Clerk for the City of Bowie. After the 2023 elections, Council had expressed that they would like for the Board of Elections to look into different formats and equipments that are out there possible for conducting city elections. The board has done that. They've met with several vendors. And with us tonight, we have the chair of the Board of Elections, Yolanda Jones, that will present the board's recommendations, and then also from the board, we do have Carl Stemmer and Joe Puccio in the audience to offer any answers to any questions that council might have. Yolanda?
Thank you, City Clerk.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Awilda, thank you so much for that introduction. And of course, good evening to the citizens of Bowie. My name is Yolanda Jones, and I am the Board of Elections Chair. Following the meeting on May 27, 2025, the Board of Elections respectfully submits the following recommendations for the 2027 city election and beyond. 1, transition to paper ballots. The board recommends a return to paper ballots for all voters, not just absentee voters. This method aligns with procedures used in county, state, and federal elections and has proven to be more efficient and user-friendly. Proposal includes pre-printed ballots and tabulation scanners, and ADA machines which will generate a voter's ballot, which is then printed and scanned into a tabulation machine. This will reduce the need for touch-screen voting machines. Potential consolidation of polling places, possibly to 1 per council district due to increased efficiency. 2, polling locations, concerns, and recommendations. The board recommends re-evaluating current polling locations. Cornerstone Church is no longer an available polling site. Christian Community Presbyterian Church is potentially unavailable. The Huntington Community Center continues to face parking limitations and generating ongoing complaints. South Bowie Pool House has historically faced overcrowding and parking challenges as well, which will be exacerbated by new housing developments. Due to the city's ongoing residential development and the current location concerns, the board recommends reducing the number of polling places from 8 to 4, with 1 polling location per district, dependent upon final site assessments and accessibility. 3, election vendor and technology recommendations. The board met with several vendors that provided demonstrations of their equipment and services that they provide. We do recommend the continued use of electronic poll books. 4, key election deadlines and policies. We recommend that the candidate filing period open May 1st, 2027, and closes 60 days prior to Election Day. Absentee ballot request deadline. We request that this is made 1 week prior to election, no later. 5, mail-in ballot consideration. The board unanimously opposes the use of full mail-in ballots for the 2027 city election. And 6, electronic submittal for applications, forms, and documents. Candidate filing packet should be done in person. And campaign finance reports, as well as the absentee ballot applications, could be submitted electronically. Regulations would need to be incorporated in the City Code, Chapter 6. Respectfully submitted, the City of Bowie Board of Elections. No questions? Thank you.
Tim, we're unable to hear you.
My question was, hey, thank you for that information. I was open here to council for any questions.
We have a question here.
Okay, go, and then we'll go to Ms. Rogers, Councilwoman Rogers, right after you. Go ahead.
Bless you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this presentation, actually for the work that you've done on this. It's very helpful and very promising. I'm glad to see the support for the paper ballots. I have been concerned over the many, many years, many, many elections. I've had some concerns with accountability and in the long term, if there are challenges, that we didn't have a good paper trail, if you will. So I'm glad to see that. Under the first proposal, it says ADA machines will generate a voter's ballot. I'm assuming the ADA is in reference to the Americans with Disability Act?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify it and make sure that was correct. With respect to absentee ballot request deadline is 1 week prior to the election. That's the start. They can't request them before 1 week, is that?
So yes, no, we're saying that they can request it prior to that, but when we get to 1 week before
Okay,
election,
that's the
that
drop-
Tuesday
that's
prior,
it.
we have, yeah, because one of the issues we ran into over the last few years is
Right.
people saying that they mailed it back, but it's not getting to City Hall in time.
Right.
Or the issue of someone saying they never received it, but it was mailed, can they have another one? So we are recommending 1 week before, and we prefer that they bring it back here, not mail it
Okay.
within the time. Because they have up to through Election Day until the polls close to drop it off at City Hall.
You were anticipating my question. So we don't have a rule that says if it's postmarked by Election Day and received thereafter, it's valid, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just,
Because when we're done that night, we're done.
and then some
At midnight, we're done. Or sometimes 1 o'clock, we're done.
Oh, you don't want to drag on the election for 3, 5 weeks, months or something?
We wouldn't like that.
Councilman Brady.
The statement about the board unanimously opposes the use of full mail-in ballots. Is that in reference to essentially doing a mail-in election rather than having polling places? Is that the reference?
Yes, so we're saying, yes, instead of saying, you know how some cities are doing, everything is mail-in, no one's going into a poll, we're saying that's
Don't wanna
one
do
thing
that.
that we do not recommend. We
Okay,
do not recommend having a full mail-in.
okay. Did the board talk about or consider early voting type applications for the city? Where you have polling available, say at City Hall for the 2 weekends before the election or something like that. Was it even discussed or
That
considered?
is something that we brought up, but right now, we didn't see a need to move forward with that. But
Okay.
that, again, is something that we can always discuss if you all feel a need.
Okay. And I greatly appreciate the recommendation about campaign finance reports being filed electronically. We've talked to the IT department during the budget process and asked them to look at that and other things that citizens do. Can they now do it electronically? And this is one that will be very helpful, well received on our part. And then the last comment is more of a feedback. The last election, one thing that kind of created a bit of a problem, and it's the first election that I recall going back to 1994, where the lines weren't drawn for the electioneering distance from the poll. And that created some confusion with candidates putting signs out the evening before, and it created some confusion with regards to candidates and supporters approaching voters as they come in. It used to be they'd paint a line on the grass that's 100 feet from the door. So one candidate could say to another candidate or their supporters, you need to stay behind that line. Well, this last election, we didn't have those lines, so I just wanted to give that feedback on that. So in going forward, I think we need to go back to that, because otherwise people don't know what the limits are and don't know where that boundary is. And it would be helpful if we had that again.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Jones. I appreciate your presentation and the recommendation from the Board of Elections. I just have a couple brief questions. I'm always looking for standards as far as best practices are concerned. Did you consider other municipalities, either within the state of Maryland or any other places across the country that do this very well?
Yes, so actually, we did look at the processes that a couple of cities do, College Park, Laurel, Greenbelt, and we reviewed their process, and also the companies that they were using as well for elections. So we did do a thorough review before we even selected companies to meet with. So we did try to see other areas that are doing it well, and also see the things that aren't going so well for them to hopefully prevent our city from doing them.
Okay, thank you. When I looked at the report, I didn't see much data in regard to that, but let me ask, do you see your recommendations being cost savings, resulting in cost savings to the city?
I think overall, I'll be honest, things have gone up since the last election, and we also assume that within the next 2-3 years, there will go up slightly more. We will say that I think overall it will be cost saving, but also what we felt was very important was the efficiency and the user friendliness that we were trying to basically combat some of the issues and complaints that we've had over the last few years. So we were looking at, of course, cost efficiency, it being user friendly, and what may be overall best for the citizens of Bowie, and also in hopes of getting people out to vote if the process is easier or I guess clearer for them to understand, that hopefully that would also garner more citizen participation.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm making notes while you're talking, so I apologize for not looking up. Did you have, or the committee have, any recommendations for new locations, since we do have some locations that are not going to be available, and we also have 3 new subdivisions that will have residents that will be moving in over the course of the next several years?
Yes, we did briefly discuss that. Someone suggested that, is it South Lake? The new division that also has where the Sheets is on
Yeah,
301.
South Lake.
We were
Yeah,
told
South
that
Lake.
there's a community center there, so that's something. So we haven't looked into it yet, but we've made a list of a few places that hopefully we can look into and see if it's available. But we were told that there's a community center that was built there. I'll be honest, the Huntington, we have not necessarily found anything in that area that could hopefully help with that. The issue with Huntington is the parking lot for years. I've been on the committee for, I guess, 16 years now, and that's always been the complaint, is the Huntington parking lot. But also, we don't know anything that's necessarily nearby there, so that's something that we were hoping to find something in that area. But we have started the talks of potential places that could meet our needs for a polling place.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have one last question, let me look. And that's about the candidate packets. Is there some type of regulation or law that requires that they be completed in person or delivered in person, I guess?
That is a good question.
Councilmember Rogers, per state, the state does require candidates to file in person any candidate packets for when they're running for a position. So we're just following that. I do think it's good practice just so that we could have a face-to-face interaction with the candidates, and we could go over the packets and the processes face-to-face, whether if they file it electronically, it's sort of hard to be able to explain to the candidates the processes, especially for someone that has never done it before. We recommend that doing that aspect of it still to be in person.
Okay. All right. I kind of thought there was some reason. All right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there
Couple
any
more
other
here.
council members? Council member Estelle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your time tonight and for your work, for your presentation. I appreciate it. Do we know what's going on with Cornerstone Church? That they might not be available anymore as a polling location, Cornerstone
Say
Church?
Cornerstone?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, the last election, they kind of didn't want us there. So I think they were just done at that point. I don't know if it's they also have a daycare in there. So I don't know if they're starting to just feel like they don't want any unnecessary people in there. I don't think they're conversation that's been had, but we just know that they do not want to be a polling place anymore.
Okay. In Old Bowie, Ascension Catholic Church has been used as a county and state polling location in the past. They have ample parking
And
right
that's
off.
not that far, okay.
Yeah, right off of 9th Street. And then you also have the, I'm struggling with the name, Pastor Cottrell's Church on 8th Street in Old Bowie also has more parking. They're like 3 blocks away from the Huntington Community Center. So there are at least 2 churches in that area that may be interested and that are kind of civically engaged. That could be
Is
alternatives.
that Angela? Dr.
Angela Cottrell, yep.
I only know that because that's my daughter's English teacher this year, Bowie High School.
There you go.
She teaches honors English. I know, that's random. But when you said the name, and my daughter
Small
was like, she's
world.
a pastor. Okay, so
Very
I got the 2 of
small,
those in my
big
head,
town.
Ascension and Dr. Cottrell's
That's exactly
church.
right.
Okay, thank you.
So those are 2 possibilities in Old Bowie. One question that I have, it sounds like if we're going to consider going to 1 polling location per district, the complaint that we're going to hear from a lot of people is that on net, we are reducing people's options to vote, right? Because we're having the number of voting locations in a town where there's been 8 as long as anybody can, well, I shouldn't say that. There's been 8 for a long time, and people are going to get very annoyed at us if we reduce that. I'm wondering, what was the reason against the option to vote by all mail? I'm kind of curious. Was it cost or?
The paper ballots makes the process so much quicker.
Yeah.
So that was the reason that we didn't see the need to still have 2. Just because the process is so much quicker. You do the paper ballot and then you feed it into the tabulation machine and that's it. So
Understood.
the line should move a lot quicker, but.
Understood. But what was the reason? You guys were unanimous about not having a universal mail-in election, and I'm curious as to the thinking there.
I think one of the main concerns just about mail-in is so you will not, well, you would believe the complaints that we get every year. I think one of our fears is that if we go to completely mail-in, you're going to have the people that say they didn't receive the ballot. Day of election, they're probably going to show up, and I can see them at a Wilder's door. They need the form right then and there. They didn't get it. It's so many issues with that. Also with complete mail-in, you run the risk of, and again, this is just my opinion, this is not what the board discussed, you run the risk of possibly having a vote for someone that has passed or someone's voted for someone else because it came to their house, maybe they don't live there. I mean, there's a lot of issues you just can't necessarily validate. So that is some of the concerns we had, but I think one of the main concerns was just that we could see a lot of people potentially saying they didn't get it, or they didn't get it in time, or they don't send it back in time, but I did send it back. We get those anyway with absentees. But.
Okay. Let me ask, in the last city election, I noticed that we sort of inadvertently created a de facto early voting because we made it easy to access mail-in ballots, and then we made it very easy to drop off that ballot during business hours at City Hall. I was surprised by the number of people who took advantage of that and treated it like early voting. I wonder if we could maybe really highlight that as an option for people, so maybe we have fewer polling locations, but hey, folks, come by City Hall for like this wide period of time and drop off your ballot, no line. As long as that doesn't create too much of a headache for staff, and we're anticipating kind of how that might affect Wilda and her team, if that's something that your team is open to or thinks might be workable, that could be kind of an alternative to just advertise more formally for folks as a trade-off. But otherwise, I really appreciate the work and I appreciate the recommendations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman, go right ahead. Councilman
you.
DeFore.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to you and the rest of the team, some of which are here. This is a part of our civic duties and responsibilities. Someone's got to be on the other side making it all work, and oftentimes that gets overlooked. And actually, one of the things I have concerns about is our ability to fully staff the elections. I know that every year there's a big plea. I know I've made comments in my newsletter for people to volunteer to sign up. Wilda has on a number of occasions been in her office sweating bullets wondering if she's going to have staffing to handle all the locations and the counting and so forth, and to get people trained. And so thank you, first of all, for being part of the team that makes it work and that keeps our process running. So thank you very much for that. The couple of comments, I'm sympathetic to the fewer polling places because of the issue of staffing, which I know it's been tougher as years go by to get enough people to fully staff the locations. I'm also, to Councilman Estev's point, concerned a little bit about people's feeling that things are being made more difficult. However, I do think that the volumes are such that, particularly if we change the equipment, we can get people through much more quickly. And frankly, there's very rarely a burdensome line when things move quickly. While I'm thinking about it, there's also a ballroom location on 197, the old Firefighters Association place that's across from the baseball fields on 197.
Jericho Park, I know you.
Yeah, right across from Jericho Park. They might have an interest, so that's more in the middle of District 1. If you had to have a single location, put that in the back of your mind. I haven't talked to them, nor do I know their business model, but that might be viable. I share the concerns about the mail-in. I know that when I go door knocking, I will knock on doors and I will find people, and they are long since moved, but yet they're still an active voter, and clearly they're not present, and actually in some cases haven't voted in some time, and there are other people living there. I think it lends us just another opportunity for somebody to raise concerns and unnecessarily, and to cast aspersions about the process. If there's a hole for somebody that could potentially get through as a nefarious act, then people will assume that people are. And I think the fewer of those holes that we have, the better off we are. So anything we can do about that. I know that we're subject to the county's data. They do the actual registration, and so we're not able to control more tightly what we have for registration. So we do have a bit of a limitation there. These changes, how do you think prep time? I noticed a 60-day close for absentee, for registering to be a candidate. Any thoughts on overall any changes that would increase the workload for the staff and for the volunteers who help out with voting?
Right now, no real recommendations to help out on that. I think one of the things we've done that has already been a jump is we've started the process of talking about it now, and we're a few years away. We're 2 years away. So we've basically started a lot earlier. In the past, or at least I can say on the end of the board, we usually haven't started. We wouldn't meet until, maybe earlier that year, or maybe at the earliest, maybe the fall the year before, the winter the year before. So us starting 2 years early, we're able to iron that out and at least get an early start on, first, the way we would like the election run as far as the paper ballots and the tabulation machine. Also, I think now we can go back and have that discussion about possibly starting that early voting, and again, and maybe even advertise it or share it in a way where it's seen. The earlier you do it, the better, but especially if we do decide, or you all decide, let's consolidate to one place per district, then that gives us a start now to say, well, when do we start that process of letting people know and early voting? I think, again, that was a great suggestion by Council Member Esteve? Okay. Okay. I know, you said Estrada. Now, I'm not that bad. But I think that was a great recommendation. And again, I think so, as far as staffing, I feel like, or at least trying to get the process going, I think we've got a good jump on that. And the recommendations that you're giving us, now we can add that to our list and get a jump on everything. So if we start everything sooner, hopefully that will alleviate a lot of stuff at the end. It's a lot more for my friend Wilda, but that's okay. I'm right there by her. I'll help her as much as I can. But yeah, so that's the plan, is the suggestions and the recommendations you give to try to get it going. We're just going to get it going sooner
I would circle back, I want to circle back on the comment about the early voting. I have a major concern about that in terms of staffing levels. For example, I know that if you had it open on a weekend, or if you had, a particular day, somebody's got to be there to handle the incoming and control those documents when they come in. They can't just be left at the desk. They have to be, managed appropriately. So I know that there's some limitations we probably have to put in play for that, to make sure that it's manageable, and that it's controlled in a manner that everybody is assured of the integrity of the process. Because I don't want somebody walking in and say, well, I saw a big stack of ballots just sitting there, and, well, no, it's not a stack of ballots empty available or whatever. But you want to make sure it's all buttoned down tight, and that we aren't overworking the staff to make sure that they can do it in the appropriate manner. A couple other things. The reporting windows for the financial reports. I'm glad to hear about the digital signature type thing. If you could you take a look? The current code says a report must be completed must be submitted by the 15th. I think it's the 15th. It doesn't specify what period the report is supposed to cover. It just says it has to be by the 15th. It's my belief.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It is my belief.
It's supposed to be like a month before, but I see what you're saying. It's not specific.
The language says a monthly report must be prepared and submitted by the 15th, implying that, in most people's mind, a monthly report is like that calendar month, and then you have to get it done by the 15th. I don't think I need 2 weeks to get a financial report done for the campaigns, but it's ambiguous, and we ought to tighten it up one way or the other, with the understanding that we are trying to ensure that there is as much visibility as to what's going on in the finances of these campaigns as possible, but yet at the same time, we want to make sure we're clear about the timing and the requirements there. Okay. So if you guys could take a look at that, that would be a really helpful endeavor. Earlier, there was a mention made by, Councilman Brady about the chalk lines. I do think we have, painted lines for the perimeters and so forth. I think we do need to look at past experiences and see if any of the rules are being bent or have been bent or ignored over the last several elections, to make sure that they get either more accurately codified or more explicitly explained to candidates, so that everybody knows what the rules are. And I do think that it helps to have a demarcation, a line, and not just a cone that could get moved or something like that, leaving in question where it is. And I think it could be either painted or a chalk line or something along those lines. Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
I think did you look at any other campaign rules and regulations, and did you see anything else that you thought maybe worth changing, or is it everything you got listed here? Or did you consider others that you didn't decide to move forward with, but you considered? Is there anything along those lines you could add?
We didn't. We didn't look at other rules, but again, that's something that we can go back. We did say that we did want to go back through Chapter 6, and definitely give it a closer eye, but we did not do it. Our focus from March through May was just meeting with as many vendors as possible and seeing what they could offer the city of Bowie.
What did you find was the lead time for acquiring and deploying and training people for new equipment?
So typically, we've done it in one night. I think it's been a 2-hour training, maybe.
No, but I'm sorry, I should clarify. The new equipment we would have to purchase, right?
No.
No,
Okay.
it's rented.
It's rented, okay, all right.
Borrowed.
All right, fair enough, okay. So with that, no issues or concerns with finding vendors that can do that and spin it around?
No, like I said, Ms. Jones explained, we met with several different vendors that already provide the equipment to other municipalities that we reached out to, and we got most of their contacts from those other municipalities. So it's not an issue. Some of them do offer purchase or lease. We're tending to go with the lease. I don't see the need for us to purchase the equipment, but that's further down the line. So that's one of the aspects of it. And just to follow up with some of the other questions, Councilmember Brady's and yours too, Mayor Pro Tem, the painting of the lines, a couple of our polling places requested that we do not paint on their concretes and stuff. So we are going to look at different things to do, whether it's more clear signs, A-frames, or some sort of marking, something to do. But again, that is all dependent on the final polling locations that we get. And also, this is just like the first starting steps of it. We will now, after this, we are going to look more in depth to the election chapter of the code and putting in these recommendations in there. Obviously, it is going to come before council for your approval. It'll be open for public hearings for citizen comments as well. And then more than likely, my speculation is going to be that at some point with the 3 new developments that are coming, we might have to look into redistricting. Just because, especially South Lake being so large, that district itself is just going to be too big for just that, the 4B, which is where they would fall under. So we might have to, and then we have Mill Branch, which would fall here for 3B. It might be too much for this area too. Again, it's early, but that's why we wanted to start this process early, because 2027 will be here before we know it. So there's a lot of steps that we need to get done before the actual election year. We don't have exact numbers yet. I've been working with the county on the list of people that have registered that have moved into those neighborhoods. And I could tell you already South Lake is growing a lot. So, I mean, as an estimate, if you count, it's almost 4,400 dwellings that are getting built between Milford, Mill Branch, and South Lake. Average of 2 at least per resident voting. That's 800 more residents that would be voting in the city election. So definitely, I think we might need to look into that. Again, this is just the starting steps to offer these recommendations, have put it already in your ears about the possibilities of the issues with the polling locations and so forth. And then, obviously, any feedback that council would like us to look into further, this is the best time for it.
Excellent, thank you. So by 4,400, you mean those the number of total residents being added, not necessarily?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, I believe it's about.
Of which a subset will vote.
Right, so that's right. And I believe it's a total of like close to 4,400 dwellings between the 3 developments at a minimum of at least average 2 voters per resident that are being built. You could have a lot more voters, which is a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, we also want to make sure that
gotta
those
welcome
voters
them.
have the capability and the ease of being able to come in and vote.
All right. Well, thank you all again very much appreciate time, energy, and effort spent so far and that which you're willing to be doing in the future. So thank you again, and thank you, Wilda.
All right, thank you, Councilman. At this time, I would like to make sure that I offered Councilmember Truesdale the opportunity if he'd like to make any comments.
No comments, just thank you for your efforts and your recommendations. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, can I? Oh. Go ahead,
I just had one quick question.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Rogers.
Thank you very much, sir. A quick question around the electronic certification and submission of campaign finance reports. Did I miss that part of the discussion?
I think.
Was there a specific question you were looking at?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, the specific question. All right, so I didn't miss it. So the specific question is, I know that sometimes it's not convenient to walk in a wet signature on a campaign finance report for candidates running for office. And I was asking whether or not there was any research or discussion around the electronic certification and submission of campaign finance reports.
Yeah, and we did talk that is one of their board's recommendations is that the campaign finance reports, as well as the applications requesting absentee ballots, that they could be submitted electronically.
Okay, that's all I
There
need.
will be, yeah, clear specifications and regulations will be worded better in the election chapter to clearly
Gotcha.
define the process for that.
Got you. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Now,
we have another follow-up from Mr.
Okay, I'm going to get around to this yet. Go ahead.
Do you want to go ahead, Mr. Mayor, or?
Councilman Brady? Go ahead,
Okay.
Councilman Brady. It's okay. Go ahead.
No, it's more with respect to process and due dates and deadlines and what have you. Clearly, some of these recommended changes are going to require a change to Section 6 of the Election Code, correct? Correct. So that we've got that process. Now, in particular, changing boundaries for the districts, how much lead time do you need in advance of the next election to get the boundaries set? I know you can't get it exact. You've got to have the balance in population between the 4 districts within a certain percentage, but if come election day those percentages aren't exactly equal, that's the best you can do. But how much lead time is needed to establish the boundaries so that, in particular, the County Board of Election can get those new assignments for their voter pools?
My goal is to have all of this done by the end of 2026.
Okay.
So that means because our election is 2027.
Right.
If we go with the candidate filing period of starting May 21st, that gives us the beginning of the year to put all the packets together for the candidates, have everything. In January, there's a report that I have to send to the county with all the streets and in the city and all of that, and we compare make sure that the voters are, which streets are in the city, which ones are not. So all of that will be taken care between January to February, and then come May 1st, we're ready to go. And it's preferable to have all of that in place and adopted before the election cycle starts, just so it's a clear definition for the candidates and for the voters of what the city elections process are.
I appreciate that forward-looking mindset there. And I would just ask that maybe in July of next year, we could have a repeat of this meeting to discuss so we can stay on it and move forward for the next election.
Oh, definitely. It'll probably be before then, because
Okay.
we're going to start working on Chapter 6. So we'll be, I haven't clearly decided how we're going to do it, but if it's going to be by pieces, and we could discuss, or if to wait and do it all together, but it'll be done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, City Clerk. I'd like to say thank you to the committee. Really appreciate you taking the time and the effort to look into this, to try and make it easier and smoother for all of the residents who are registered voters to be able to vote. Now, I do want to make sure that we point out that there has not been any nefarious kind of issues or anything with the voting here in the city of Bowie. So I do want to make sure everybody understands that that is not an issue, but we're just looking forward, and as council members talk, it's about making sure we don't have that problem. And so I do want to thank you for what you've done. I look forward to hearing more. I won't repeat a lot of the comments and the questions that were done. I think you've done a good job of addressing those. And I just want to say thank you. And we look forward to having you come back soon.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we will move on to the economic development discussion. as amended, and I will turn that over to, I believe it was Councilman Brady, unless we have something from staff to share with us his thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure staff will chime in at the appropriate time with the right answers and insightful thinking, but I'll start it off in tonight's discussion. The time I've been on the council, various times we've raised the issue about economic development, and while we've had good discussions, we've never had any fruitful follow through, and I want to try and arrest that and come up with a way that we have a very structured approach in discussing economic development policy for the city, setting some landmark goals where we can measure our success. And moving forward, one thing that would be in my mind, that would be very helpful to an economic development policy would be if we had zoning and planning authority. And that's not totally out of the reach, but it's not a factor in this discussion tonight. I think I'm reminded, one of my colleagues over the years, and this is my paraphrasing his position, but I took it that his position for economic development was, well, we'd have a good economic development if we had restaurants that had white linen tablecloths. And to me, drawing on my engineering experience, especially in the nuclear field, I'm reminded of critical mass. In nuclear engineering, for a reactor to be sustained, you need to have a critical mass. And I think that has been missing over time. If you recall, Bowie started out as a bedroom community, and yes, it had some shopping centers that supported and provided certain amenities to the citizens, but we never really had a real true Main Street, and we weren't a city that started to expand from the crossroads of two major roads, intersection of two major roads, as many cities across the country started out, and they grew out from that. And they had a distinct and defined downtown area, and we don't have that. So to me, we've been lacking that critical mass, if you will. So my intent with tonight would be to just kind of ask each council member and you, Mr. Mayor, your thoughts on elements that could be looked at, included, pursued with regards to our moving down this path of developing a good policy. I think we need to do it on a monthly basis, and I would suggest, just as a start, first cut, if you will, next month, invite our state and county elected officials and others within the county and state that could have input on this whole process and give us some advice. September's meeting, to me, would be the reception of the vision document from the Economic Development Committee. I think that may be a very good core to start looking at a bigger picture of economic development through the city. And then we have a business roundtable. Is it November that we're talking about doing that? So that would be a November coming back to October. Maybe we could invite the county EDC and others and outside people. When I was at MML, I had a conversation with Rockville Mayor Ashton. I advised her that we opened, because she was at the, when Councilman Truesdale and Rogers and I went to Rockville to the Maryland Women's Business Center that they opened up there, and she was a gracious hostess of that meeting. And I just mentioned that we had ours, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I was there." I said, "I didn't see you," and she goes, "Well, I got there late," but she was there in support of it. But she said any advice or any input that she could provide us, she'd be more than willing. So those that have been successful, like maybe Gaithersburg, Rockville, and others, we could invite them in October. So I'm just looking kind of as the elements that right now that we think we ought to look at, and maybe a structured approach over the coming 4 to 6 to 8 months, especially if it has an economic, a budgetary implication. And to that end, I would finish it by saying that in the end, I expect, and it's for this body to decide, but in the end, I think we need a serious look at establishing an economic development corporation for the city of Bowie in order to start doing some more aggressive and more definitive approach to economic development. So that's kind of my way of setting the tone for tonight's discussion, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you for letting me take the lead.
Okay. Any other council members would like to comment at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think I got two things. One, I think thinking about as far as big picture tools that we might want to consider making available to us. The first, I'll agree with Councilmember Brady, is an economic development corporation. Two, I completely echo the council member's desire to continue to pursue zoning and land use authority. And then three, I know some other members have brought this up, but the other component is just, ongoing proactive recruitment of desired businesses, that we're at least having the conversations and doing proactive outreach. And I think that a fresh round of that can start with a simple public survey of residents to see like what particular businesses are of interest to them. And, corporate phone numbers and regional phone numbers are pretty easy to find these days. For the Economic Development Corporation one, I don't know how my colleagues would want to proceed. If it would just be a matter of directing Mr. Henry King and his team to look into what other jurisdictions in the state of Maryland are doing that may have some successful models. I think that would be advisable, at least just to see what's out there. But that would be kind of my number one as far as maybe taking first steps towards a long-term project.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? Councilwoman Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree that we all need to sit down and talk about economic development for the city of Bowie, create a vision, and then figure out how we can achieve that vision. I also recognize that we are, beholden to Prince George's County leadership when it comes to the zoning authority, as well as the county's reputation when it comes to engaging businesses to want to be here, build here, or get permits to lease here. So that's a challenge, one of the challenges that we're up against. I will be very frank. I had a conversation with a developer here, and I did my ex parte. It's on the website here in Bowie, who is having an extremely difficult time in attracting restaurants and hotels to Bowie. They don't want to come. Now, I don't know why they don't want to come. But that's something that we as a community, we as a council really need to sit back and look at what incentives, what would draw businesses to our community that may not want to be in Prince George's County per se. Now, having that zoning authority would be extremely helpful because the permitting process would be a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I think we all have the same ideas and ideals around what economic development is. We want to attract and retain business. We want to be able to, use our real estate and our land. We want to be able to plan well for that and, at least have some influence and conversation with developers when they come in so that they know what we're looking for or looking at. We want to be able to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And we also want to think about the incentives. We have to be strategic around incentives. Now, I will mention when we did go to Rockville to look at their Maryland Women's Center initiative there, when you came out of that facility, that little shop, that center city, Rockville, was not really lively. You know, they were fortunate and they had, you know, some businesses there, but it was not lively. So I think what we're going through is not unique to residents. I don't think Rockville is any better situation, I mean, relatively speaking, than we are. But I do know that we really need to just sit down, say, this is what we want. This is our downtown area. These are the adjacent areas to our downtown, and then make a decision on how we move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to comment. And thank you, Councilman Brady, for bringing this up.
Hey, thank you, Councilwoman.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Wolfe?
Thank you. Pardon me. First of all, thank you, Councilmember Brady, for bringing it up, and I concur with that which my colleagues have already commented on. I do want to say one thing. I think we ought to be careful about getting the cart out in front of the horse in terms of, I'd like to ensure that we get the recommendation from the Economic Development Committee before we start bringing in people from beyond our immediate organization, just so that we have a chance to kind of sort it through and decide what general direction before we bring others in. And I would agree that we need to get on a schedule and move this forward. It is a major concern for our constituency, and the organization could benefit from that as well. So if that means asking staff to get a schedule, lay out a plan for us, I think that's a good idea, and wholly endorse that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, thank you. Councilman Truesdale, any comments?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Brady, for putting this on the item. I definitely agree and concur with my colleagues as well in terms of us moving forward collaboratively with just the mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, the development mindset. I was just in the store today and was just talking to a young lady, and she was sharing, oh, well, I remember when this such and such theater was vibrant in XYZ, and I'm kind of like, paraphrasing a little bit, but for the most part, these are, we have residents that have grown up in our city. We're in a great position, such as Rockville, such as other areas, municipalities or cities. You look at Sherrington Village, you look at Virginia, Northern Virginia, and how they kind of renovated from a foundation that they already had. If it was just adding more residential around their commercial or senior facilities or 55 and older facilities, so that you can have just an economic base that will go all day. And then, providing the night attractions. So I really appreciate, us having this conversation and talking about this and moving forward and talking about this even more. One of the things that one of my colleagues was mentioned, how do we attract? How do we, retain? And at the same time, how do we revitalize some of the jewels that we already have? So I'm really looking forward for the EDC sharing some ideas and how we can just collaboratively, move effort. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. I think my takeaway from a lot of this is that we need to make sure, I think it's appropriate that we meet on a regular basis to talk about economic development here in the city. I think the way the approach is that we can have conversations, but I do believe it would be good to hear from our Economic Development Committee, who are working on a plan, but also just to get from them. I think it's important, though, that we bring in some of the business models like the Bowie Chamber, as well as the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce, to get their insights and what they're looking at and what they're doing. we need to get the Prince George's County Economic Development team on board and get them to come in and give us their strategic outlook on what they're doing. But also we need to be able to reach out to others, even the Maryland State Economic Development Commission, to get their things. So I think it's important that we do get a lot of views. I think we try to see what best practices are. I think somebody summed it up, and I think it may have been Councilwoman Rogers, that a lot of things, we're not unique in this situation right now. And we need to just look at what we can do, what makes sense. And another part of that, I think there's a good thing in setting up an economic development corporation to assist us in some of these things we may look at and for funding. But I believe it's important that we take the time, we do that. What I would like to see moving forward is have John Henry King, economic development guy, to take a look at what we're looking at, to put together somewhat of a timetable, a schedule moving forward, us meeting based on some of the parameters we've heard tonight, and be able to come back with us with a schedule on what we can do moving forward. If that meets with the rest of the council, I think that's one way we can go about doing this right now, and just charge staff, i.e. John Henry King, to help put together a roadmap and help us to see who has best practices that we might want to look at even further. And yes, we have to continue fighting for our own ability for at least limited zoning authority. And we will continue to go and press for that. So having said that, I will turn it back over to Councilman Brady for any last comments.
I appreciate that, but before I last comment or make any final comments, maybe we ought to hear from staff and get some feedback from them based upon what they've heard from us tonight.
Well, I was going to go to them next. I just wanted to make sure if you had any other comments.
No, I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten from you and our colleagues is very positive.
Okay.
And I'm optimistic. As I said, over the years, we've raised this as an issue. And on a couple of occasions, we spent a lot of money on hiring someone to come up with catchy phrases and kind of advertising Bowie. And it was never to address an economic development policy for the city. So I think this is a promising start. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity for this, and I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
All righty, let's turn it over to staff for any comments at this point.
Yeah, hey, Mr. Mayor, City Council, thanks a lot. I mean, taking notes here, and of course, we do have a foundation of sorts in the budget where you all have stipulated what the mission of economic development is currently, and we do spend some money toward that, as I can see. There'll be no problem with Mr. King and his team coming up with a schedule where you all can discuss this. How often would you all want to get together and have these discussions? Do you want to do it at these meetings or separate meetings, between now and the December timeframe?
Well, I think I will poll the council members at this time to see what their thoughts on how often we should meet. Now, I'll start with our at-large, our Mayor Pro Tem, and then our at-larges. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm kind of betwixt and between because I don't like the idea of adding additional meetings, but at the same time, I'm not sure that this is a forum or format that is most conducive to dialogue on such a subject. I think it needs to be a bit more free-flowing, and I think maybe some separate meetings that are conducive to that sort of dialogue is perhaps what we would need to do.
Okay, any particular frequency, Mayor Pro Tem?
Monthly is good for me, I should think.
Okay.
Well, we can certainly set
Thank you.
that up if that's what the council is inclined to do. I would say one thing about the Economic Development Corporation. In a past city, in Albany, Georgia, Albany, if you speak Southern, there was an Economic Development Commission, which was a separate entity from Dougherty County and the city of Albany. And each government contributed $250,000 to the operation of that. And so we went out and hired a professional economic development person who had a staff, and their mission was, in Albany, was to create jobs specifically. So they recruited TARs, gun collector, assembly operations, call centers. They endeavored to keep Procter & Gamble there, Merck, and their job was to go out and bring jobs to that city that in a county where people could buy a house, rent an apartment, have a car, raise a family, and that's what they did. And they got money from us, the county, and also from some of the other big corporations. So it could be an expensive thing, setting up a corporation, and you would have to consider recruiting a professional and putting that person out there, and as some sort of separate entity, just to give you an idea of that. But we can certainly have Mr. King and his team work on a schedule of monthly discussions, which would include our current economic committee's report, where they're going to come back and talk about what you all can do to make the town center a better and more vibrant operation too, right? So we can certainly take on that mission and have something for you by the August meeting for sure.
That sounds good, City Manager. Any other questions, concerns? That sounds like it will work for us. I think we're all in agreement with that. And if you could, City Manager, would you have our economic development team work on that for us, and we'll discuss it again in August.
We've got the mission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, and one other thing though, City Manager,
Yes, sir.
with the money that we approved, because the camps are now, I would really ask if you could expedite for those kids with the Nike camps, because some are going on this week and then another one next week and the week after. If you could you please see how you could expedite that so we could get those kids in there who may be deserving, okay?
We'll have the Community Services Director contact Ms. Bridges and her team tomorrow to expedite
thank you.
that.
Yes, thank you so much, City Manager. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn and move to closed session. Under statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code, General Provisions, Article 3-305B1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance, evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, and Section 3-305B3, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn the closed session. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your time with us this evening. Staff, as always, thank you so very much for your contributions to the city. And I'd also like to thank my fellow council members for your time and efforts as well. Everyone, please have a safe evening and be careful of the weather. Have a good night and goodbye.